You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Rapping with Dr. Jacqueline connects you with experts from all over the world to help you take charge of your career, your business, and your life. Rap along with us. Visit drjacqueline.com to learn how to become a guest or a sponsor. And now, the doctor is in.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Welcome from wherever you are joining us today. We are thrilled to have you. This is our second show today, the Underdog Show. I am your host, executive producer, director, and broadcast engineer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. And my co-host, the star, Doctor Who, Ben Chai, is in the house. Hello, Doctor Who.
Hi. How is everybody today?
A double intro. I love it.
Yes, it absolutely is a double intro. I was you know how you've got your show on all the Facebook posts. I was just copying and pasting it onto my Facebook Live, and then it plays automatically. I'm thinking, no, don't play. It's playing in the background.
Well, you know what you and I will do? We'll have your Facebook page is one of our destinations, and it automatically will stream there, so everybody in your network can watch us right on your page.
That would be semi-awesome. So I'll tell you what, because I'm always teaching people that if someone tags you, don't allow it to appear straight away on your page. So that means I have to go to activity log, blah, 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 to allow the page to be on.
Yes.
I see you're so interested in my little tribulations.
Well, what people might not realize is that broadcasting involves a lot of little details. There are so many little things that have to be taken care of. We don't just I have a gown on right now and you're wearing a tux. We don't just get dressed up and show up and that's it, right? There's a lot of work behind the scenes that takes place. And you've brought us a fabulous guest today, Sherry Robertson. She's also joining us from the UK, so I'm excited to have her out. But before we bring her out, Doctor Who, why don't you share a little bit with our audience about the purpose of the Underdog Show?
Yes, the Underdog Show is here to really share with people who may be going through a challenging time, or maybe you know someone who's going through a challenging time, and you can find people who are going through similar times just like that person, either you or the person you're working with, and see how they've gone through those dark times to overcome and come out into the light. So that's what we're doing. And some of our guests, they've been through some very tough times where everyone thought they would fail. You know, they're like the universe was against them, or they had some kind of condition that nobody thought they'd ever recover from, and they did. And so they share with our wonderful audience here how they did it, and perhaps you take a few insights from those wonderful guests.
Fantastic, thank you. And of course, Fraser Ramsey is in the house. Hello, Fraser. He's commenting. It's good to see you. Good afternoon. Wardrobe changes. Yeah, bow ties. How many bow ties do you have, Ben?
As many bow ties as I have Botox.
Oh, you know I have Botox, right? I just got mine done. Yes, I think April the 11th was my day to finally get my face done again, so that was pleasant. Yeah. I wanted to comment on one thing. On the last show, we had someone on who really shared, really transparent about a challenge that he faced in his life with his son. And the point is that he's very wealthy and he's very well connected, and none of that mattered, because it couldn't change the circumstance of how his son was born. And he came and he was very transparent about it. And so that's why I think this show is so great, because we're out trying to help people get their story out so they can help other people.
That's absolutely fantastic. Shall we bring our wonderful
on? Drum roll. Sherry Roberts. Sherry.
Without further ado, the most amazing, the entrepreneurial, the incredible Sherry Roberts, who has overcome a lot. And we're going to choose one or two of those stories from her life, which will really highlight some of the things that she's gone through and how she overcame them.
And I just want to mention your website is amazing. Yes, and I just want people to take a look at your website. I'm going to find your banner. Before we hear about some of the things that you've overcome, would you please share a little bit about what you're doing and who you are today?
Okay, so, well, I'm doing a few things. The main thing I'm doing is I own a company called The Longest Stay, which is thelongeststay.com. So we are the world's first shoppable hotels, which means that we furnish boutique hotels and independent hotels, and then we allow people to buy what's in the room through our online platform and also a mobile app that we're developing at this time. So it's an innovating concept. We're the first ones to do it and to power these kind of hotels that are looking for new revenue streams right now, a new marketing exposure. Especially post-COVID, hotels have taken quite a hit. So, they're keen to get on board and learn how to make money different ways than maybe they expected in the past. So I own the business. I have lovely shareholders and a nice team. And I started quite a long time ago, but we were innovators and we were a bit too early in the market. And now I'm just so happy that we are finally at the right place in the right time and we can scale the company now. So that's my main business. Before this, I was in technology. I worked in media and tech companies in Europe. Originally started my career in Silicon Valley in 1994, but I've been in Europe 25 years. So you hear the American accent, but I've got kind of, I would say, the European sensibility behind me, having lived in the UK, Germany, Switzerland, and Italy most of my adult life. So that's what I do. That's what I breathe every day. I also launched a TV show called Sexy Single Dish, which is a cooking show, which is all about visiting fishmongers and butchers and preparing a single portion of food, because I think a lot of food is wasted and a lot of people that are single don't really make the effort to cook just for themselves. And then you can buy the dishes and the plates also through my company, thelongeststay.com. So we are the e-commerce engine for homewares that are presented on this show, which is just on Instagram, but it's looking like it's going to be a proper TV series. So that's my second project, building my personal brand through Sexy Single Dish, which will help market The Longest Stay as a digital platform.
I love both of those names, by the way, The Longest Stay and Sexy Single Dish. That's fantastic.
Have you ever seen a sexy fish, Dr. J?
A fish or a dish?
A fish or a dish. I see.
Sexy fish.
Well, sexy fish. Of course, I've been to the restaurant, right, which is sexy fish in Mayfair. But I haven't actually seen a very sexy fish. But I've seen sexy fishmongers, Ben. I definitely have.
Yeah, I wouldn't know because I have every Wednesday it's sushi, so I can't tell whether they're being sexy or not. Today is sushi day.
Yeah, but it's interesting because I never appreciated the butchers of the UK and even the fishmongers of the UK till we were in lockdown. And when my business, even though it was e-commerce, it was a difficult time because things weren't being produced, people weren't willing to spend money, and the furniture market kind of slowed down, even more. So I went out and I kind of just started networking with fishmongers, getting my fish, and naturally fell upon the concept to do Sexy Single Dish and turn that into something I think is going to be quite big. And I filmed 44 episodes every single week during COVID, during lockdown. I didn't miss a week. It didn't matter, what the rules were. I was out getting the fish and the beef and coming back and cooking and doing it alone in my kitchen. So as I live alone and I have, my 3 fur children, which are my pets. So they were very much supporting cast members in Sexy Single Dish. And Chambella, my dog, always took one for the team. I mean, there was never a dish she didn't take part in. So it was fun. It kept me busy during COVID. And then, of course, now the hotels are really coming on board. So now we're really starting to scale. And it's going to be a really exciting time going forward. So I'm in a good place.
Dr. J, before we start the interview, because I'm just aware that we're up to that point where the sponsors come on. If I just could recap a few of the things that Sherry has just shared about the challenges of COVID, especially I know some of us have had mental issues because we've been a bit lonely and so on. But a couple of things that Sherry did is she found something else to do, anything. And something that they were passionate about. I know I've been working with actors who've been doing rehearsals, dancers who've been working out new routines, but also, apart from that, prepared for the time when lockdown will no longer be around. So also prepare that foundation for the rest of her business. So guys, if you are still, for whatever reason, having to be locked down, or maybe the new variants that are coming will cause a further lockdown, just think about some of those shares that Sherry did. And sorry, Dr. J, I know we've got a sponsor thing in a couple of minutes, but if we have it now, that way we can get into the meat of the interview.
Yes, I'm with you. I just was going to say, Sherry, congratulations on all your success. I love strong, powerful women, and the fact that during lockdown, when there are so many things closed and so many no, you found a way to find a yes to create something new and fantastic. So we'll look forward to hearing more information about how we can actually watch the show, where the show is. But for now, as Ben said, we'll take a break and hear from some of our sponsors. We'll be right back on the Underdog Show. Stay with us.
Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to Story Garden. Your host, Diane Boehm. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Diane Floyd Boehm tells wonderful stories that warm the heart, spark the imagination, and unite people and families across generations. For children, Diane's Harry the Camel connects with all of us who've ever wondered how different our lives might have been if only we'd been born something better, like a wonderful horse instead of an ordinary camel. In the end, we all learn along with Harry that there's nothing better than just being yourself. Diane's Little Girl in the Moon looks down on earthbound children and wonders if they know she's just like them. A story of love, home, and the bond between mother and daughter, its powerful theme that we're each of us different yet all of us the same plants a seed in children that promises to blossom within a loving and trusting grown-up. Diane's new biography, Rise, recounts the experiences of her grandmother, Ruby, to reveal the hidden strength of the human spirit. Ruby's story inspires all of us to become the best versions of ourselves. You'll find all of Diane's delightful books and much more at DianeFloydBoehm.com. Visit DianeFloydBoehm.com. That's DianeFloydBoehm.com.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAT partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAT partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
It's what we do together that counts. The Big Alliance story. A true story about faith over adversity, perseverance, and entrepreneurship. Read Earl's story and how he became an entrepreneur. Available on Amazon, Kindle, and Audible.com. For more information, contact Earl Hurd at earlhurd@bigalliance.com or call 1-800-460-4242.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Hello and welcome back. It's good to see you. We are here with the Doctor Who of Business, Ben Shai, and Sherry Roberts as our guest. Sherry just shared some information about wonderful things that have been going on in her life, and she's worked hard to get to where she is. And life hasn't always been easy. There's been a couple bumps in the road here and there, and we want to hear about them from you today to inspire our audience to keep pushing, keep going.
Yeah. So Sherry, which one would you like to feel will be the most beneficial? The illness you went through, or the thing which happened with your when you were just on the peak of your life journey?
There's numerous challenges that have been thrown at me. Like, we all have had challenges, right? So it depends on what you're personally going through, which you'll find more relevant. But I can think, first of all, I think we all relate to someone dying, right? So someone close to us that's passed away unexpectedly. And I think that's one I really like to touch on first, because it was something that I experienced that I didn't see coming. And it came at such a pivotal time in my life, just as I was about to launch my company. So to make a long story short, I was happily married and in love with my partner at the time, my husband, who was Italian. His name was Giovanni. And he was probably my biggest angel in terms of investment, in terms of support, emotional support. He believed that, I should be an entrepreneur. He was from, the south of Italy. We lived in Rome after we got married. And he just said, my life purpose is to make you happy. And I think what will make you happy is to create your own business, which you might find quite unusual for a Southern Italian man. You might think other stereotypes would resonate, but he actually was extremely progressive and open-minded and pro women and wanting to see someone like me become a big success. So he supported me as I started The Longest Stay in terms of, watching me go to a university in Switzerland to get back to market research, to come up with the idea, living on airplanes. And, he would help me, whether I needed funding for a legal contract or travel so he was, clearly my first real investor. We were together, I would say, about 9 years. And it wasn't until, I would say 3 years into my marriage that I learned that my husband was battling drug addiction. And it was something that was not obvious to me. It was never obvious because he held a very good job. He was very well educated. He was loved by everyone. He wasn't a partier. He wasn't a drinker. He was a silent user of heroin, which is something that he started as a teenager, which he kept very quiet. And he managed to manage his addiction privately. So, whether he was taking methadone or he was hiding it, but he was extremely intelligent, extremely good at hiding it. So as I was starting this business and I was married, I kind of had to go through the bad times when I saw that he wasn't an addict and that it was becoming a very serious problem. That meant rehabs, that meant psychiatrist visits, that meant me not telling anyone around me because I was mortified, embarrassed, and not only that, wanted to protect him and also didn't want to be judged, So it was a tough time because I was starting my own business and the husband, my husband who I loved, was battling drug addiction every day. So I was living in a fire zone. I was living in a war, really, a war between me and the addict, and the same addict that he was in a war with. So it was kind of 2 against 1, except I can't control his addict, right? So as I went through all this process, I came up with a business idea. I got my first angel investment behind me. And we made a decision we would move to London. And it would be kind of a fresh start for him out of Italy. He was looking for a different career path, so that was going to come his way. And I thought it would be a nice new start. However, the sad part is that he entered into a rehab program 3 months, just as I closed my seed investment. And when he came out of that rehab, he overdosed and he died. And he died very unexpectedly. I mean, you can always say, well, of course they can overdose, but you never really think it's going to happen to you. Especially when you think they're coming out of a hospital, they're going to be better than they went in. He actually came out of the rehab center far worse than he had gone in because they had decided that he should be on all kinds of pharmaceutical drugs like lithium and things at that time, which I didn't know enough about, and I couldn't really challenge the system. And of course, it wasn't in my mother tongue, and I'm having to learn Italian medical terms. And again, I was very isolated through the process, and I didn't really feel I could really share it with many people, if anyone. Even his family, I found it very difficult to share it with. So bottom line is, he left the rehab on Monday, and I think it was Thursday he died. And I was in London during that time setting up the business. I was just getting the office. I just had my staff. I was thinking about the house we were going to move into. And while my world went up in smoke. So the question is, how do you turn around and become productive out of something like that? And you're obviously carrying a huge amount of grief and confusion, and you don't know what to share with, who you're going to share it with, and you're worried still that he's going to be judged and someone's going to say it's your fault he died. And so you go through a lot of loneliness and a lot of fear, and at the same time you've got this beautiful business that someone's just given you a pot of money to go build, and you're like, okay, this is my saving grace. Like, I have a choice. I either sink or I swim. This is going to be my income. I no longer have his financial support. That's going up in smoke. So let me make the most of it. And I think that was my biggest challenge was, how to put away that pain enough to be productive and enough to go in an office and smile every day and pitch to a journalist or a new investor or a client and just wither the storm. And I think it took me about 7 years before I came out and I could talk about it openly with people in the public, how he died. It took me 7 years. And I can say that building the business was, at that time, the hardest thing in my life, because it wasn't because the business didn't have potential. It was because I personally had to understand what it was like to be a widow, make sure I wasn't being taken advantage of. My emotions were heightened. I had to make sure that I was level-headed. And I depended a huge amount on my spiritual belief system to get me through. And it was that spiritual belief system that got me through it. So
I'd like to rewind a little bit, Sherry, just to understand some things. So when your husband passed away, you went through a whole bunch of emotions. So that you mentioned that you felt isolated because you couldn't share with anybody and any of what was going through, because your command of the Italian language wasn't brilliant at the time, and I don't know what it was from in terms of your side, but I'm guessing that you were living in a different country anyway, so that was challenging. You also had potential people thinking kind of like, oh, what's she doing? She's focusing on her business rather than going through the whole grieving process, whatever that means, because I think everyone grieves very, very differently. And so you may have had people being a bit judgmental towards you, and just the whole bereavement process, which I think is very different for everyone as well.
Yeah. So I was living in Italy at the time full time. I wasn't in a different country. I was just having the business was starting off in a different country. So we were moving to England when he died, but I was full time in London. I mean, full time in Rome. So I was very much there. I was speaking pretty good Italian. I just wasn't proficient in, let's say, the medical terminology. It's a different level of Italian when you have to start speaking to doctors and psychiatrists in Italian. But
so one second, Sherry. Dr. J, is that your perspective as well of what Sherry was going through?
One thing I was going to share with Sherry, and obviously I'm not going to mention any names, but I was in a relationship with someone who was a heroin addict, and I had no idea. I was totally shocked because the person had an incredible career and was handsome and all these things. And I can relate to what you're saying. Like, you don't want anyone to know, you're mortified, and yet you have to deal with this on a regular basis and still do your work and be productive. So thank you for sharing something that's so close to home. And for there's so many suicides you hear by heroin or overdose that this is a major issue in this world today.
Oh yeah, mental health and addiction, and the highly functioning addict is not understood or not really recognized, and I think a lot of people are battling with heroin and those kind of addictions that are priests, that are doctors, that are lawyers, and the brighter you are, the harder it is to recover. And the longer you've been doing it. I went to see a psychiatrist at Berkeley University after my husband died. Someone introduced me to him. I wanted another opinion. I just said, why did this happen to him? He's so bright, He said, I can cure the janitors at Berkeley University, but I cannot cure the professors of addiction. And he said, they just don't want to surrender to the fact that this thing overtakes their lives. And what I learned about this whole process in my business is that we're not in control. We're not in control. I can't control him. I can't control his addiction. I can't control anything in my life. All I can control is my beliefs that something in my life has my back and is going to guide me to the next stage of whatever it is I go through. And I think that was how I survived the grief, was I truly felt I was being guided by a higher power, by spirit, to take me through what I needed to be going through. And I got these messages on a regular basis. I got them whether I was communicating with a psychic, or I was communicating literally with Jesus directly, or I was meditating and getting messages. And so it became very clear to me that I was, in a way, a bit special that this happened to me, because I was going to be someone who'd probably championed, the help of highly functioning addicts and their families. And the more open I could be about it, then the more open other people might be about it. Right. So
as you were going through your grief stage, I'm guessing that perhaps you were curled up under your bed, perhaps shedding crying or something, and suddenly you'd hear a message come to you that things are going to turn out fine, or when you just needed to get away and meditate because you needed to get rid of some of that whatever's going on in you. I'm guessing that's when that helped with the process.
No, what really helped me was actually speaking to clairvoyance. And I know that sounds a bit crazy, but it helped me a lot, because when my husband died, I was in London when he died. And I had a friend, his name was Keith, and he was a clairvoyant, and he's written books and loads of things. And we were friends, basically. And I called when I could not reach my husband on the phone, and I was in London and I knew he had left the rehab and I couldn't reach him. I had a pit in my stomach that said, something is really, really wrong. Something is so wrong. So I actually couldn't reach my husband. I couldn't reach anyone. So I called my friend Keith and I said, Keith, I really feel sick. Like something's really wrong with Giovanni. He said, and he gave me a very clear message. He said, Sherry, he goes, he died yesterday. He said he died to set you free so you could become the success and the person you need to be in your life. And if he hadn't died, he would have held you back. So he's actually now your biggest angel, and he's going to do the world of good for you as you go on your path. He's the reason I found out my husband died. Because when I then got a hold of my housekeeper, she was the one that kept saying, no, he's not dead. He's just cold. We're calling an ambulance. I said, he's dead. And in fact, he was dead. But I found out through him. And so it was people like Keith and other people that when I turned to and said, I really don't understand my day today. My emotions are so bad. The grief is feeling awful. I don't, they would say, but you have to hold on, because do you know where you're going in your life? You've got this to look forward to and that to look forward to, and you have nothing but huge success in front of you. You have this amazing life purpose. So they gave me hope. They gave me hope, and it wasn't false hope, because I could see the hope when they gave it to me manifest. I could see things change. I could see how things were evolving. So they gave me an anchor to hold on to. So that was something I trusted. The other thing I trusted was, like I was saying, so I'm Christian, so it's not so much about my religion, because religion for me is, is personal, and some things are right about it and some things are wrong about it, religion, right? But I also could get messages directly, and I'm saying this not because I'm preaching a religion, but just to say I could get messages directly from Jesus Christ, who could come to me in a dream and tell me some things that were so important that I could never have imagined this kind of communication. And I said, there's my other guide. So I've got him guiding me. I've got messages from the clairvoyant. And then I would get miraculous messages from my husband who died from complete strangers. So I would literally be walking down the street and someone would come up to me and say, who's Gio? I say, Gio. Gio's my husband who died. Only my niece called him Gio because he's really Joe for Giovanni. oh, well, do you know that the meeting you're going to have on Tuesday is going to be super successful for your business? So he says, just watch out, it's going to go really well. And then the person would literally walk away down the street. I'd never see them again. So I would get these random messages from people, complete strangers. And that would give me confidence because it would say, wow, he was right. That meeting was amazing. So I started to trust in my intuition. I started to trust in spirit. I started becoming a really big open channel and just listening open-mindedly to people and to the people like Keith or other people that I came into my life that I trusted that had that similar kind of skill. And I said, it's not all BS. People might think it's BS, but it's not. And actually, the reason I am where I am today and have gotten through what I've gotten through is because I had hope. And that hope came to me in bucket loads from
Sherry, we're going to just have a break for our sponsors at the moment. Yes, and we'll circle back to some of the great messages of hope that the clairvoyant and you got through your prayer through Christ and through messages from random people. After the break.
Okay, that's great. Okay. Great share. Thank you, Sherry. We'll be right back. Stay with us here on the Underdog Show.
The world of healthcare is benefiting us in many ways, but the risk of becoming a victim to an airborne infection is increasing at a fast pace too. There are threats from viruses, allergic pollen, and chemicals which cause you loss of health, income, business, mental health, family and friends. All are at stake. One solution to this threat are the BV Air Sanitation Placide-based systems. When you call our team on 0208 104 3253, you find out about the amazing protection available. Protection that uses certified Battlefield, tested, standard and customized air disinfection systems for your personal and business use. Each system uses a filterless technology known as Placide, which attacks all airborne particles with microlighting to destroy and eliminate viruses and other harmful particles in your office, transport and home. You also benefit from extra bonuses such as low running and maintenance costs, no regular filter and part changes. You get to work with our trained experts and professional staff and be made aware of the latest in airborne protection and disinfection strategy. Keep yourself healthy by working with our trained experts and Placide virus killing systems, which keep you safe from airborne viruses. BV Air Sanitation Limited. We save lives, save businesses, and prevent infection. Schedule your free consultancy call and virus protection checklist. Call 0208 104 3253 or connect to us on www.bvbuster.com.
Located at 121 Haddon Avenue in Westmont, New Jersey, is Margie Cedrone, artisan jeweler. Margie's been in business for more than 30 years. She works with her clients to create custom pieces of jewelry to reflect their personality and help them make their own bold statement. Starting in the renowned Jewelers Row in Center City, Philadelphia in 1988, Margie works directly with her clients to develop one-of-a-kind pieces such as necklaces, engagement rings, wedding bands, unique watches and tennis bracelets, as well as a myriad of rings and earrings for everyone in your family. She also has worked directly with Dr. Jacqueline over the years, creating unique pieces of jewelry to reflect her personality. She does pearl stringing and repairs on site at 121 Haddon Avenue. Call or text Margie at 215-384-7155. Margie Cedrone Jewelry is open by appointment only. Make your own bold statement.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
and welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacqueline, the Underdog Show. If you're just joining us, my co-host is Doctor Who of Business, Ben Chai, and our guest is Sherry Roberts. And Sherry has really been very authentic, transparent, and courageous, sharing her story of overcoming something really that's very prevalent in this world today. She lost her husband to heroin overdose. Well, I don't know if it was heroin, but there were the other things that were given to him in the rehab.
It was a tonic of heroin, cocaine, and lithium. It was a mixture. You could never prove the lithium because I wasn't able to probably get a proper autopsy done at the time. But I would say those pharmaceutical drugs definitely weakened his heart, and then the rest just kind of combusted together.
Dr. J, what have you learned so far? Have you got any takeaways?
Yes.
From your story?
Yes, I've gotten a lot of takeaways. First of all, Sherry was at the pinnacle of this amazing company that she was starting. She was out of town. She was out of country, I guess. And at the same time, her husband was being released from rehab, and she tried to get in touch with him. She couldn't get in touch with him. She reached out to a good friend, and basically through work with clairvoyance and work with religion, Christianity, believing in Jesus Christ, getting messages directly, she's been able to channel the loss that she's had into helping others and building this incredible business platform that she might not have had an opportunity to do so, because apparently from what her friend said is that her husband left the earth so that she could go and do what it is that she was meant to do.
Yeah. So what I've heard so far is if you're going through some kind of bereavement at the moment, several helpful things you can do is find people who can support you. Now, that might be a clairvoyant, it might be prayer, it might be whatever it is, and then listen to the voice of why it happened, because it sounds to me like Sherry was saying, why did it happen? Going to the clairvoyance or getting messages from when she was meditating or praying. And some of the wonderful messages are everything is working for you. And I can see if you have someone who has an addiction, eventually it would have turned into a total mess somewhere later on in the line. And because they're no longer there, that allows you to progress much, much farther, faster. And remember the good times when this wonderful man was supporting Sherry. She said he was her biggest supporter. But if he had carried on, somewhere along the way, I'm going to guess that the addiction would have become very visible, not just to Sherry, but to his family, to his colleagues, and so on, and also impacted their family life.
Yes,
I'm guessing this is the real gift. But if you are going through some kind of sadness, please reach out to somebody who will speak to you in some kind of positive way to help you get some understanding of why things have happened.
Yes, I think you said it really well, Ben. I mean, it's about being open and asking the question of why. And when you get the answer why it happened and you can accept why it happened, then you move on. That's what keeps you from falling into a pit. It's holding on to the why and then accepting why was in the best interest of my life journey, right? The best interest is if he didn't die, we could have had a terrible ending to our marriage. It could have ended ugly. It could have been something worse. It could have driven me over the complete edge, because I can tell you, as strong as I am, living with an addict will give anyone a nervous breakdown.
So I've actually lived with addicts, and they were great, fantastic initially, but over time the addiction gets bigger and this sucked their finances. They owe a lot of money today, but initially it was nothing. They had great careers, great jobs, so I'm guessing that is exactly what would have happened to Sherry later on.
It's a problem that just, it can get, can take you down with it, and it would have been, even if I had to leave him, that would have been just as heartbreaking as him dying in a way, because I would have felt I left someone mentally ill to preserve myself. And that's another grieving process,
That you don't want to go through. I think the other thing is the ongoing bereavement, because I think some people, it's a bit like if you've broken up from someone you love very dearly, and they're always saying, oh, there's plenty of fish in the sea, or they're saying that it's kind of like, I'm really sorry if anybody shares this kind of information with people, but that is the crappiest advice you could give anyone. or just get over it, or he died six months ago, or a year or 2 years.
Yeah, what's wrong with you? Move on. Right.
I get told, oh, you should go back to that ex-boyfriend, that used to fancy you because, you're 50 now and, time is running up, and I think there is no time frame for me to fall in love again. I am very now happy in myself and what I've accomplished for myself. And if love finds me, it's not because it's putting a Band-Aid on a wound. It's because it's adding value to someone who's very much healed. And that's why I haven't.
Sorry, Sherry. The point is you spent time with those people, however long it takes to get over a bereavement, and to constantly have some of these people around you, so that because you just don't get over a bereavement in a few months or a few years. No. Everyone's different, and I this is what I like about your journey, is that it wasn't just that day when he died. You had this kind of continually happening to you whenever you needed that boost, whenever you felt down or you had a hard day and very low and came back and there's no Geo there, and you had that you were surrounded by people who could say, hey, Sherry, we're with you. Things are going to be great.
I wouldn't say people. I would say I had very few people around me. I would say most of my people, even family and closest friends, weren't so much there, because what can they really say and what can they do? And they haven't been in your situation before. And, 1 year goes by, 2 years goes by. Yes, sometimes they're there around anniversaries or the death of his anniversary. You'll get a message, but they weren't there for you every day. And definitely when you're building a business alone, that's a very lonely process in itself. So you're coming back as an entrepreneur on your own, running a business with shareholders, and at the same time you're feeling that void and emptiness of that person that was your rock. So there's no people that were around me, Ben. It was Sherry. And it was occasionally when I picked up a phone and I literally called one of my clairvoyant coaches and said, look, today's a really bad day. How am I getting through this day? Where is the hope? Where's the hope? And where's the goal that I need to focus on? And they would literally guide me out of it. They would guide me out of that pit. The other thing is, I worked with some healers that would help remove any dark energy that was on me from the grief. And there's a whole other subject I can go on about that, but we won't. So I had healers. And then I had, a few handful of girlfriends that knew Giovanni, that if I really needed a cry or a shoulder on that day, I could pick up the phone. But they had their own lives. They have their own partners. They have their children. They have their jobs. They're not there to pick up the pieces. My family live in the United States. I've been away from them for almost 25 years. My relationship with them is not a very close one. So I think, I really battled it alone, Ben. I wouldn't say this is something I went through with some great people around me. I'd say it was something Sherry fought on her own every day.
I'm because I'm not quite seeing that. I'm seeing that you had the clairvoyant coaches.
Yeah, I had that. I had professional people around me.
Yeah, it sounds like what you're saying is you didn't have the typical family, friends.
Not really. No, yeah. I have lovely friends. Don't get me wrong, but you're embarrassed. You don't want to be sharing your grief with them every day. You just don't. I have pride. I'm a private person, and so that's why you needed professionals.
Yeah. So Sherry, it took me 10 years to get over one of my things. I had a friend, and he didn't mind me just saying the same old crap to him whenever I was feeling down. So he would have been like your clairvoyant.
Yeah, exactly.
I would just phone him up and say, listen, do you mind? I'm just going to share the same old rubbish. I know what I should do, but I just need to get it out of my system.
Yeah.
And he'd say, go
I
ahead.
found myself talking to the taxi drivers often, to be honest. I found myself having open conversations with random people in shops.
Strangers.
I found it easier to talk to random people than people that knew me.
Yeah.
And I did find that I didn't really, I say, I trust Jesus is true, but I wasn't part of a church where I felt I even wanted to really get involved. I mean, I wasn't really into the religion so much and the church group as much as I was happy to have a conversation privately with a spiritual leader. That was something I did in my private way. But yeah, no, I found many, many times having open conversations with complete strangers about my husband's addiction and how he died, and them saying, so great you shared that story. My wife is going through that. Mm-hmm. And I also went to Al-Anon, which is a group for family members that have partners or someone in their life with addiction. That group was pretty important to me because then I could really let it out in that group. But that was my support network. But, it's not something you can talk about with close friends every day, or they just haven't been there and they don't want to hear it. I mean, they hear it after so many times, but at the end of the day, no one wants to hear a tragedy.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I've got a few friends, and I've said, look, if you just want to call and just unburden, that's fine. 3, 4, 5 in the morning.
Ben, I'm calling you next time. Ben, you're now recruited as
what I'm saying is, Sherry, that everyone's different, and because you were embarrassed about your own sharing with your close people, you created a different kind of support network. You mentioned Elon, you mentioned random taxi drivers, you mentioned clairvoyant coaches, your support network. Because what I don't want people to feel is that, that they may be embarrassed like yourself and not want to speak to people, but you created this virtual network of people. I'll never see this taxi driver again. I'm just going to say, hey, so have you ever lost somebody before? What would it like it for you,
Well, to Sherry's...
Oh, sorry, Dr. J.
I was just going to say, to Sherry's point, what I find is that the people who love you and know you well, they make judgments. And then it's kind of like, well, didn't you realize that he had this problem? Why did you stay with him? And now you're getting dumped on, you're the one who has a problem.
Definitely.
But if you talk to other people, you don't get that.
I'm sorry, Dr. J. This happened to me with some of my family. I don't talk to them anymore. It was just like, what did you do wrong? And I'm thinking, I didn't do anything wrong. So I'm sorry. That also made my life much easier.
I got told things like, if you were a good wife, you wouldn't have been in London when he was out of rehab, and you would have been there by his side, and this wouldn't have happened, and you would have stopped the heart attack and the whole thing. I said, he could have overdosed in the shower, and I could have been at the supermarket. You really cannot control an addict, whether I was there or I wasn't there. The day he did it. Maybe would be there that moment, and I wouldn't be there the next moment.
Think of how exhausting that is, that you have to be responsible for someone else's behavior 24/7.
I got judged like that. I did. And I thought that was unbelievable. And it was coming at me at all directions. And I thought, that's it. Who can you just don't need it. You just don't need it.
Well, I think it's incredible how you've really found your own support network, Sher. Really, I know you don't say it's not people, but you kind of created virtual people who vanished out of your life, and then you went on to do many other successful things. So I think that's pretty incredible myself.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next part of my life, and maybe, I'm ready to have a new partner in my life soon, and my business is scaling, and I'm doing the sexy single dish, and, I've got my chief angel officer named Giovanni, and I know it's all going to work out. So it's all been part of the journey that I probably signed up for, frankly.
I like that, chief angel officer. I've never heard that before. That's great.
Dr. J, I was going to ask you who your chief angel officer is.
My dad.
Yeah, everyone's got one. We've all got one, and and he's mine. He's on my spiritual board. of directors, and he's there. I've got him,
grandmother.
I've got probably Buddha, because I've been to Buddhist temples, and who knows who else is tapped in on that board. But I've got my spiritual board, and they're the ones who I tap into that guide me. And I've seen how they've done it the last 8 years, so they're going to continue to do it the rest of my life. So it's just not being afraid to trust and have a spiritual board. And I think that's what a lot of business leaders are lacking, is a spiritual board. They have their board of directors, they might have their life coaches, but they don't have a spiritual board. And that's a very important part of when you're going through a journey in your life.
Dr. J, it might be because I know that Sherry's been through many other challenges, which has probably also strengthened her to go through what she had to go through with Geo. Later on, and she's got something similar to yours, not exactly the same, but she had to go through a childhood illness, which is also caused her many problems in her life, and unfortunately, as we're coming towards the end of the show, it might be that we have Sherry back on some of the other shows just to share some of her inspirational stories.
I can tell you the warm-up of how I handled Giovanni's situation as well, because I was given even bigger challenges younger in my life. So, and that kind of prepared me for the bigger challenge later on, losing him. I was always being prepared for that. It wasn't that I was thrown into it. I had other things that built resilience, that built drive, that built independence, that built survival instincts in me. And I think that's what, when you refer to, I created my own virtual network. I created a way to survive, that I felt comfortable I could be a part of, a circle that I could feel safe in. And I learned that from my 20s. I learned that in my younger years, battling a very terrible disease that I had to live with for most of my 20s, and have been able to overcome. But that prepared me. That did.
Sherry, is there a book coming, like My Spiritual Board?
It's called, it's called Karma Bank. So Karma Bank, and it's about my life. It's going to be based on my life. And it's about how you have, the most important thing in your life is how much karma you have in your bank, right? And when you have a lot of karma in your bank, you will be given the right kind of guidance and miracles to help you get through what you need to. And karma in your bank means how much good have you given unconditionally without expecting something back. And when you do that, your bank is full of good karma, you're safe in your life. You've got it, you've nailed it. You graduate with honors when you leave here, when you have karma in your bank. It's not about your money in your bank, it's karma in your bank. So that's the book that I'll be writing when I sell the company The Longest Stay, which I expect is going to be in a few years. Then I will get that book out. It won't be done before then, but it will be done around then. So
brilliant. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Sure, as we're coming towards the end of the show, would you like to share a few tips and share with people how they can get hold of you if they'd like to reach out?
So, look, I'm on LinkedIn, so that's always the easiest way. I have an Instagram profile. You can send me a direct message on Instagram. The details are on the screen. And anyone looking for, just some feedback or more information on my story that you think might benefit, I do talks, and I'm happy to help wherever I can. So definitely reach out. That's what it's all about. Sharing is all about, reaching out and being open to receive your messages. So yeah, get in touch.
Sherry, for people who are listening on the radio and they can't read the banner, the best way to get in touch with you is LinkedIn, but also your email, sherry@thelongeststay.com, and it's SHERRY.
Yes, and The Longest Stay, not day. We're not after a war book. It's called Stay, thelongeststay.com. Furnish a home you never want to leave. It becomes your longest stay.
Your longest stay.
I absolutely love that, because before, when I was traveling, you'd stay at these magnificent hotels and you look at the furniture, you think, oh my gosh, I would love to have this in my home. And so now that's
exactly what we're going to do. We're going to help you bring hotel luxury home.
It's fantastic. Right. It has been such a pleasure having you here. And I feel like we're just at the tip of the iceberg with so much more information that we can learn from.
You got 10%, not even today. I hate to say it, but you really got the 10% version. So, but it's meant to be shared. I don't think, my story is meant to be kept in a box. I think it's meant to be shared, and hopefully it helps other people feel more confident in sharing their story and not kind of maybe approaching it the way I did, because I think I really was too isolated during the time when my husband was sick. But yeah, you will find your way out of any kind of tragedy if you just open your mind and trust the signs, and you are guided. You are guided. We all have a purpose. Everything happens for a reason. You will understand the heartbreak of why you're going through it and what it's meant for you. It's up to you to grab it and turn it into something positive to fulfill your life purpose.
Right.
Yes.
Well, Dr. J, I've got to get off now to my next appointment. So should we just have a last minute recap?
Yes, sure. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah. So essentially, guys, we all go through challenging times, and as Sherry said, we haven't even heard 10% of her story. I know Dr. J, myself, have also been through. We're thinking, why? Just like Sherry, why did it happen to me? And I have a childhood, as do many of us, but I would never wish it on anybody. However, if I didn't have that challenge, I would not be able to overcome the problems that I've had to face today, and even current ones that I'm going through. These days, when they happen, I don't say, why me anymore? I'm thinking, thank you for whatever it is you're preparing me for. Thank you for whatever, before I used to think, God, why me? Why not somebody else who's richer, more famous, whatever it is, who can cope with it? But it's because, as Sherry said, we've got something amazing for you. Absolutely amazing for you.
Yeah. And I just want to say, do you know what the power is in forgiveness? True forgiveness is when you can thank that person who did that to you for giving you that experience.
It's true.
So you look back at your past, or you look back at your childhood, Ben, and you say, thank you for doing what you did to me, because if you didn't, I wouldn't be where I am today. And that's how you get rid of the anger and resentment about people that you think may have harmed you.
Sherry, you have.
Maybe.
I've done a talk called The Gift of Betrayal, and I don't even think about forgiveness. I'm thinking about giving them bottles of champagne.
When you do that to the bad guys, what do you do to the good guys? Can I be the good guy?
The good guys get to grow and grow with me. The ones that have left, they haven't been able to grow with me and go as far as I've gone, or as far as any other person has gone. I'm going to leave yourself and Dr. J, if Dr. J, because you have so much in common, both of you, including Dr. J, what Dr. J created during the COVID as well. It's just phenomenal.
Amazing.
Well, thank you, Ben, for being here, and thank you so much, Sherry. Sherry, we'd love to have you back on this show or one of our other shows. We've got 16 other shows a week, so I'm going to close out the show because I have another one right after this. But we'll definitely look forward to having you back, Sherry and Ben. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Sherry.
All right.
Thank
See
you.
again soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow, Sherry has such an incredible story, and as she shared with us, that's only the tip of the iceberg. And so I really thank her profusely for being here today and really shedding light on a number of topics: overdose, heroin, the fact that when something really bad happens, maybe the people that have been our family and friends, they're not going to understand what it is we're going through. Maybe they're going to judge us. Maybe they're going to label us, but none of that is real. And we just have to find people that we can resonate with, who do have an open heart. And if you're going through something, please do not keep it to yourself. If your family members are not there for you for whatever reason, or your friends, you can find someone, you can hire someone, you can call social worker. There's so many options for you, but don't keep it locked inside, because it's just going to eat away at you and nothing good is going to come from it. So as Sherry mentioned and Ben mentioned, we all have our journey and things happen to us. I've mentioned many times, I live with a chronic illness I've had since 1991. Sometimes I'm doing these broadcasts and I just hold onto my chair because the pain's so bad. I'm like, please God, let me get through this. But it all happens for a reason. So let's not ask why not. Let's just say thank you for giving me this, because it's made me who I am today. We have several other shows coming up today. We have the Business Talk Show with Al Cini, who is my co-host, and our guest is Trish Robichaud. And that is at 2 p.m. Eastern Time or 7 p.m. British Summer Time. Right after that, we have our presentation platform, not an interview platform, presentation, A Better You. Lessons from the best coaches, consultants, and trusted advisors. I have a handpicked team of leading experts in their field, and it's also open to the public. But you come on for 15 minutes, present a lesson, then we will ask you to put together a 5-question quiz about the lesson. We will give you the opportunity to have that edited and put it up on our online learning portal, which we are launching July the 1st. The other thing after A Better You, our next show is In the Name of Love with my co-host Kimmy Seltzer. And we're bringing back Donna Barnes, who is amazing. She's a relationship coach. She's a breakup coach, and she's going to have a lot to share. So there are shows for today. Final announcement is my book is coming out. Yes, Sunday. I'm going to bring up my picture of my book. We are pre-selling Behind the Green Screen, How to Succeed in the Live Broadcasting Business. So for those of you who don't know, up until last year in March, my last official paycheck, March the 6th of last year, I started a new business during the pandemic. And in August of 2020, I started this platform. First, we were on Zoom, and we were not live streaming. It was being uploaded and live streamed to Business Talk Radio. So we were only on the radio. And then from there, I went to StreamYard, and we were only streaming on Facebook and YouTube. And now we have 17 shows a week. I have 10 co-hosts, and we are global. And just to be totally transparent, I am the one doing all of the work. So I spend literally 15 hours every day setting up the broadcast studio, going on social media, getting the guests, prepping the guests, following up with the guests, and going on YouTube, all the different channels that we're on, the newsletter, writing the book, launching A Better You. So this has all been since August of last year. So you too can find your dreams. You can make things happen. Just believe in yourself. Don't listen to the naysayers. Talk to a taxi cab driver. Talk to a stranger. Just tell somebody what's going on with you, and just find your dream regardless of what it is you're going through. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you again to Sherry. Thank you to Ben. We'll see you on the business show soon. Bye.